right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Hangmen Also Die, 1943 war propaganda film directed by the Austrian director Fritz Lang, who was probably communist, along with Brian Donlevy and the writer Bertolt Brecht, credited as Bert Brecht. This was written by John Wexley from a story by Bertolt Brecht, credited as Bert Brecht and Lang. The film stars Brian Donlevy with Walter Brennan, Anna Lee, and Gene Lockhart, and Dennis O'Keefe in support. Alexander Greinach has a shadowy role as a Gestapo detective, and Heinrich von Twardowski has a cameo as Reinhard Heinrich. Hans Eisler composed the Academy Award-nominated score, and James Wong Howe was cinematographer. The film is loosely based on the 1942 assassination of Heydrich, the Nazi Reich protector of German-occupied Bohemia and Moravia during World War II, the number two man in the SS, and a chief mastermind of the Holocaust. Heydrich earned the epithet of the Hangman of Europe. Though the real Heydrich was assassinated by Czech soldiers parachuted from a British plane in Operation Anthropoid, this was not known at the time of filming. Instead, Heydrich's killer is depicted as a member of the Czech resistance with ties to the Communist Party. So they were promoting communism in this movie. They knew that they were going to be enslaved by communists after Stalingrad and U.S. involvement later on. And they were happy about it. They called it freedom in this movie. It's like 1984 all over again. Freedom is slavery. All right. The production company is Arnold Pressburger Films, distributed by United Artists. Release dates: March 27, 1943, premiere, April 4, 1943, general. Running time, way too long, 134 minutes. Country, United States. Language, English. And a budget of $850,000. I'm giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. I disliked it. It's a typical war propaganda film from this time. It doesn't have any historical accuracy. I think it overplays the Nazi Gestapo quite a bit. In Prague, during the Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia, Surgeon Dr. František Svoboda, played by Brian Donlevy, a member of the Czech resistance, assassinates the brutal hangman of Europe, Reich protector Reinhard Heydrich. Before he can escape the scene, his getaway car is discovered, forcing his planned safe house to reject him. When a stranger, Marcia, deliberately misdirects nearby German soldiers searching for him, he seeks out her home as a sanctuary. Her father, Professor Stephen Novotny, realizes Svoboda must be the assassin, but Professor is willing to risk everything to hide him, even his own life. And he gets assassinated at the end. What a dope. Because the assassin now cannot be found. The Nazi leaders take 400 Czech men as hostages, and they threaten to execute them 40 at a time till the killer turns himself in or is betrayed by his own people. I like the twist ending at the end. Other than that, this movie really stinks. Professor Natovny is one of the hostages. Masha demands that Saboda surrendered, so Professor Novotny will not be executed. When he refuses, she goes to the Gestapo to denounce him. But when she arrives, the sight of oppressed Czech citizens moves her to plead for her father's release instead. Yeah, that makes sense. I come to rescue my father, and then I see all these oppressed Czech citizens. And so I'm going to protect the assassin now. The Gestapo arrest her and the rest of the Novotnys, but the Gestapo can find no evidence that they were involved in the assassination, even after bugging the Novotnys' apartment, because Brian Donlevy, the communist assassin, is too clever for them. And they are bugging the apartment. Gestapo Inspector Gruber continues to believe Masha knows who the assassin is, and Gruber offers the release of Professor Novotny in exchange for information based on stage conversations between Masha and Saboda. The Gestapo hierarchy believe that Masha is cheating on her fiancé, Jean, with Saboda. Nonetheless, Gruber begins to gather intelligence on Saboda. Emil Zaka, a wealthy local brewer, is part of the resistance. Zaka attends its meetings. Zaka knows its leaders. In reality, he is German and fifth columnist. When resistance members trick him into revealing he is a collaborator, he escapes as Gestapo agents kill. What was that? Or arrest most of the other resistance members. One of the resistance leaders wounded by the Gestapo, Benedict, devises a plan to frame Zaka for the assassination. Acting on planet intelligence, Gruber is persuaded that Saboda and Masha are having an affair. Masha then makes a scene at a restaurant to get herself and Skada taken to Gestapo headquarters, where she claims that Zaka was the man she saw fleeing after Heydrich's assassination. Her story is supported by the false testimony of many people. Oh, so it goes against the Catholic or Christian admonition: do not bear false witness. When Gruber deduces that Saboda's relationship with Masha has been staged, Saboda and Jan kill him. Zaka is then framed for this murder as well. Isn't that nice? They murdered the fifth columnist. No. Oh, they murdered Gruber, the Nazi agent, the Gestapo agent. They falsely accused him of being the assassin. And the funny part was that the Nazis went along with it. They signed off on it, even though it wasn't true. They knew it wasn't true. Zaka is then framed for this murder as well. Gestapo agents gun him down. So it was Zaka who they blamed for the assassination. That was played by Gene Lockhart. Although Mosca is told that the remaining hostages will be freed, the Gestapo instead liquidates them all, including her father. Those dirty Gestapo. They're going to bury every last one of those Czech communists. But don't worry, Czechoslovakia will become a Soviet satellite anyway, along with half of Europe enslaved under communism. A number of working titles have been reported for Hangmen Also Die. Never Surrender, No Surrender, Unconquered. We Killed Hitler's Hangman and Trust the People. It has also been known as Lest We Forget. It has been claimed that when a book with a similar title to Never Surrender or No Surrender was published while the film was in production, the producers held a contest for the cast and crew to suggest a new title. The contest was won by a production secretary who received the $100 prize, Teresa Wright. John Beale and Ray Middleton were also considered at one point to appear in the film, which went into production in late October 1942, and it wrapped in mid-December of that year. Director Fritz Lang had considered beginning the film with Edna St. Vincent Millay's poem, The Murder of Ladis. He decided against it, but the poem does appear in MGM's film about Heydrich, Hitler's Madman, from 1943. Hangman was Brecht's only U.S. film credit, although he supposedly worked on other scripts during his time in Hollywood without receiving any. It is claimed that the money he earned from the project enabled him to write The Visions of Simone Machard, Schweck in the Second World War, and an adoption of Webster's The Duchess of Malfi. He left the United States shortly after testifying before the House Un-American Activities Committee. John Wexley received sole credit for writing the screenplay after giving evidence to the Writers Guild that Brecht and Lang had only worked on the story. However, it seems there is more Brecht in the script than is commonly accepted. The academic Gerd Gurmudin writes that he spoke to Maurice Raft, the judge on the case, who told him it was obvious to the jury that Brecht and not Wexley was the main author, and that Wexley, furthermore, had a reputation as a credit stealer. It was only because of the fact that only written evidence was admissible, and since only Wexley's name appeared on all drafts, the jury had to rule in his favor. Wexley himself was blacklisted after he was named a communist in the House Un-American Activities Committee hearings. They're all communists. Brian Donlevy, Fritz Lang, and who else? John Wexley. Sorry. I had a brain fart right there. Hangmen Also Die had a world premiere in Prague, Oklahoma on March 27th, an event which featured Adolf Hitler, Hirohito, and Mussolini being hanged in effigy on Main Street. The mayors of Washington, Kansas, and London, and Moscow, Texas attended. The film opened nationwide in the first days of April, beginning with 20 key cities. The music for Hangmen Also Died was composed composed by Hans Eisler, Brecht's collaborator on a number of plays with music, and earned a nomination for a Best Score Academy Award. Eisler only worked on a small number of U.S. films, the most notable of which are Deadline at Dawn, 1946, and None But the Lonely Heart, 1944, for which he was also nominated for an Academy Award. The song No Surrender in Hangmen was written by Eisler with lyrics from Sam Koslow. No Surrender was written on a napkin, a bunch of scribble by one of the Czech captors. Variety Review in 1942, story continuity is fine and absorbing throughout, but essentially it's the incisive terms of the message propounded that sets Hangmen apart and points up the fact that propaganda can be art. Really? I don't know about that. Maybe Variety is talking about Batman, 1944. Writing for The Nation in 1943, critic James Agee states that Lang and Brecht have chosen to use brutality, U.S. gangster idiom, and middle-high German cinematic style to get it across, and is rich with clever melodrama, over maestoso directorial touches, and the sort of Querschnitt sophistication for detail, which Lang always has. The Nazis are also archaic, nicely presented types, the swaggering homosexual, the cannonball-headed plainclothesman, the tittering, torturing androgyny. They are all conceivable as Nazis, but they are all old-fashioned. The New Order had produced men of a new kind, and it would be more to the point to show some of them. British critic Leslie Halliwell wrote, disappointingly heavy-handed, though deeply felt war propaganda set in Hollywood's idea of Czechoslovakia. Only moments of interest remain. I'll tend to agree with the British critic on this one. Hangman Also Died was nominated for 2 Academy Awards for Hans Eisler for Best Music, Scoring of a Dramatic or Comedy Picture, and for Jack Whitney of Sound Services, Inc. for Best Sound Recording. The movie is rated at 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. Are you kidding me? 88%? That has to be wrong. All right. Let's do this. Let's go on IMDb, see what's happening. Hangman Also Died, 1943, 2 hours, 14 minutes, too long. Gets a whopping 7.4 out of 10. On IMDb, 7,100 ratings. So not an obscure film, but a well-loved war propaganda movie, which is typical for U.S. stupidity. After the German administrator of Czechia is shot, his assassin tries to elude the Gestapo and struggles with his impulse to give himself up. As hostages are executed one by one, he doesn't care. He's more important than all of them. It's got a lot of big-name actors. Here's a featured review that's more flattering. From Thai Guy 2, gives it a 7 out of 10, calls it a top-notch World War II drama. More like this, None Shall Escape, The Woman in the Window, Ministry of Fear, and Manhunt. I have seen 2 of those. And I believe the reviews are on YouTube. Originally, Bertolt Brecht was denied story credit by the Screenwriters Guild, even though he worked closely with writer John Wexley on the project. Heydrich was not shot. The gun provided. Oh, here we go. This is the review that I was talking about earlier. Tie Guy 2, dated October 31st, 2002, gives it a 7 out of 10 on IMDb. And the title of the review here on IMDb is Top Notch World War II Drama. This is loosely based on a true story of a member of the Czech underground assassinating the Nazi regional governor, ruthless fellow they call the Hangman. The story revolves around the assassin and the family that unknowingly hid him from the Gestapo. When questioned by the Gestapo, the family says the guy was there to see their daughter, who happens to be engaged to another fine gentleman. So this little situation complicates the story as the Gestapo detective, a very ruthless chap, tries to catch them in the lie. From there, the story moves along in chilling fashion when 400 town folks are rounded up to be executed in groups of 10 each day until the assassin is turned in. This causes people to question their inner strength, and it makes them wonder if it is worth it to sacrifice themselves to keep him hidden. The story revolves in a very clever way, which I will not reveal. The movie has that film noir Hitchcockian feel to it, with the protagonist being chased down and making clever escapes by the skin of his teeth. Although the movie drags a bit here and there, it ends up being a worthwhile suspenseful drama, and it also makes you think a bit about what you would do if you were put in that situation. I wouldn't work with a bunch of communists. That's for sure. All right. Heinrich was not shot. The gun provided to the assassins jammed. One of the men threw a bomb at the car that landed near the wheel and exploded, sending shrapnel through the seat, and Heydrich's closed before injuring his spleen, diaphragm, and lung. He died from sepsis in the hospital days later. So there's the true story of Heydrich, the SS man, number 2 in the Gestapo, Czech patriot. Your mothers were slimy rats. Their milk was sewer water. The end of the film reads, not the end. Opening credit on 2012 restoration, restored in 2012 by the Restoration Department. Pinewood Studios UK, utilizing the best of the surviving archive film elements that included some original 1943 nitrate, with the help to the BFI National Archive for preserving and supplying original film material, featured in Hooray for Hollywood in 1986. Soundtracks: Vitava, The Moldau, uncredited, from Ma Vlast, My Country, music by Bedrich Smetana, played in the movie theater, also played on the radio during dinner. Release date April 1943 in the US. Country of origin United States. Languages English and German, also known as Los Vertigos también mueren. Production company Arnold Pressburger Films. Budget of $850,000 estimated. Runtime 2 hours 14 minutes, 134 minutes too long. It's in glorious black and white, and the aspect ratio is 1.37 to 1. It's even got Ming the Merciless in there from get my movie poster lined up properly, from Flash Gordon, Charles Middleton. It's got Dwight Frye from Dracula. A lot of familiar faces in this one, all wasted on World War II propaganda. And it's all a bunch of nonsense. I did like the plot twist, though. That was kind of interesting at the end. So it's not all bad. I would suggest fast forwarding to the last 20 minutes and watch the Czech people bear false witness against Nazis. Because the ends always justify the means, you see. And they were going to be enslaved by communism anyway. So what exactly were they fighting for? Nobody knows. It's like there's no plot in this movie. Oh well. I was very disappointed. But then again, after seeing Contempt, I figured that he was communist too, because he loves to hang out with Jean-Paul Godard, the Maoist idiot from from the 60s and 70s, who just absolutely loved Fritz Lang. They were best buddies. Him and who else? There was one other U.S. director. Can't think of it. Of course, they love Hitchcock and Fritz Lang and one other director who did a bunch of B movies. They're all best pals with the French. Oui, oui. All right, going down my list, I've got number 1, Pius XII, Under the Roman Sky, 2010. I can tell by the movie title and the streaming service that it's going to be whack. But I'll get into the nitty-gritty about what I think about Pius XII after I watch this nonsense. And then number 2 is Stormcatcher, 1999. And finally, number 3, Redhead, 1941. So so the Reed developer who's buying this house on Monday, he gave me $3,250 to move into an Airbnb unit that I couldn't use my credit card for.
Let's go brag about it in public, online.
And tomorrow I'm going to trick him into give me another $1,750.
Let's tell the whole world.
To buy me $100 a night room in a Belmont hotel that I'm not moving into. Instead, I'm moving into my car and sleeping in the garage 24/7, or sleeping in a homeless shelter if I can get my name on the top of the list. So I'll be paying roughly, I want to say, $60 to $75 a month for added garage charges shower and laundry, and that's about it. I don't have to pay for internet. I can go to the library or Starbucks. Should I go to Oh, they're all closed. Never mind. Forget Starbucks. Maybe Noah's Bagel. I can do my movie reviews, but it's going to be hell loud there. I might have to go out on the street corner with all the downtown crazies and drug addicts to do my movie review. I'm going to be the suffering servant, and it's not false humility either. It's for real. I'm doing it to save money so that I can build up a small fortune and be able to survive in San Francisco like that billionaire Nancy Pelosi and her stash of ice cream. So that's the plan for next week. Should be good. With my net worth rapidly accumulating, hopefully I'll get not only the $1,750 tomorrow, but the $200,000 that I've been waiting for should arrive early next week. I'm very much looking forward to it. I just want to get all the paperwork signed, get the heck out of here. Laters.